What if Schalke hadn't sold all of their superstars? That's what we're looking at today as we continue the series of What If. First off, let's start right in between the sticks. Of course, we start with a phenomenal goalkeeper who more than ruffled a few feathers when he decided to leave Schalke for Bayern Munich. This was on a free transfer all the way back in 2011, and since then, Manuel Neuer has won absolutely everything there is to win in football, apart from the UEFA Cup, but that doesn't really count because Bayern Munich are never in it. Of course, the goalkeeper has been part of the World Cup Germany squad that won the competition in 2014 and has really set the standard for goalkeeping in the last decade. At age 33, I'm pretty sure that Schalke would have him back as pretty much every other team in the world would, maybe apart from the German national squad where Ter Stegen is breathing down his neck. Anyway, this was a no-brainer, even though current incumbent of the position Alexander Newell is threatening to do the same, move to Bayern and does it like a quality keeper. As with all these videos, there's so much attacking talent that we often have to sacrifice a defender or move a fullback into centre half. That's why this team will have a 3-3-3-1 formation, something out of Marcelo Bielsa's playbook. But starting off with the defensive units, and we have Thilo Kehrer. He spent 2 fantastic seasons in Schalke's first team, so much so that PSG thought it reasonable to spend 37 million euros on him. He pretty much is the heir to Thiago Silva along with Marquinhos, and with Abdou Diallo there, they're creating a pretty solid PSG defence. Schalke, of course, would find it difficult to turn down that kind of money, so you can't really blame them for letting Kehrer go. But when it comes to other signings, there's a massive theme throughout this video. Schalke keep letting people go on the 3. I say keep letting them go. For whatever reason, they can never get down a new contract with a player, and he ends up leaving on a free transfer. The second of those, because we've already had Manuel Neuer, is Joel Matip. Now, when he left, if you were to buy him because he had a contract left, maybe 20 to 25 million would have suited for him. Now, after moving to Liverpool a few years ago, becoming an absolute rock in the defence alongside Virgil van Dijk, if you wanted to buy Matip now, it'd probably cost you somewhere between 35 and 40 million pounds. Such is the centre-back's current form. He's also now a Champions League winner, and I'm sure Schalke are pretty annoyed that he left on a free transfer. Alongside him, and it's one of these fullbacks that's moving into centre-back, another free transfer, and it's Sead Kolasinac. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you here. He's probably not the best choice. Yes, he'd be a good fit at Schalke at the moment. He's not exactly doing incredibly well at Arsenal, apart from when it comes to fending off attackers who are trying to steal his watch. Alongside this, there's also Philipp Max, who's doing brilliantly well at Augsburg and assisting his teammates from left back, and Kaan Ayhan, who currently plays at Düsseldorf, having spent 17 years in the Schalke youth setup. So with that 3-man defence, we now move into the 3-man midfield. And first off, when he's fit, it's an absolute powerhouse. And the second player on this list who let his contract run down at Schalke and then decided to move to Bayern Munich. Equally unpopular with the Schalke fans, much like Manuel Neuer is, it's Leon Goretzka. Now, obviously, he is a fantastic talent and so many teams wanted him, but it was just such a shame that Schalke really couldn't do anything to stop him from leaving. In fact, when he did announce his decision to leave, there was still 6 months of the season left, so you could see why the Schalke fans weren't best pleased with him. But if you're thinking, damn it, why do they keep losing players on a free transfer? Well, the good news is they actually got some money for the next guy. The bad news is an embarrassingly low fee. So, for some reason, back in January 2011, Schalke decided to sell Ivan Rakitic to Sevilla for 2.5 million euros. I know it's 8 years ago, but even back then, 2.5 million is absolutely nothing, especially to someone like Sevilla. Why they actually did it, well, it's difficult to say, but probably something to do with the fact his contract was going to be running out very shortly, having signed him from Basel a few years earlier. Anyway, he moved on to Sevilla, then on to Barcelona, won absolutely everything in Spanish football, and now, if anyone wants to sign Rakitic, they're probably going to be quoted around 50 to 60 million pounds. I can't help but feel that Schalke really did mess up with that one. Alongside them in central midfield is someone that I really don't blame Schalke for losing, because nobody was going to know at 9 years old that İlkay Gündoğan was not only going to turn into the player that he is for club and country, but also that he was going to turn out and win titles for Schalke's biggest rivals, Dortmund. Gündoğan was literally only in the youth setup for 2 years, but technically, in the terms of this video, that still counts. I reckon someone, somewhere, is absolutely kicking themselves that as a youth coach, they let him go. So moving into the attacking midfield 3, and this is where we have 2 players out wide, finally some width in this extraordinarily narrow team, and 1 number 10. So first off on the left-hand side, and it is the blistering pace and skill of Leroy Sane. Back in 2016, they lost Leroy Sane to Manchester City for around £37 million, and that's because they were probably fearing they were going to lose him on a free transfer. Although a few years later, it looks like he may be joining Bayern Munich. At the moment, over £100 million is the fee quoted if Bayern want to sign the German international international, and it looks as though they may end up doing it. Of course, at the time, Schalke weren't to know that, but he was a pretty hot prospect when he was making his debut for the team. He did in fact score his first ever Champions League goal away at Real Madrid, so that should have been a sign for things to come. Obviously, they couldn't really hold out for much more when Man City were offering so much money, and at this point, it looks like we might as well have players who used to play for Schalke but now play for Bayern reunion party. On the other side, though, is someone who I feel is criminally underrated, and that is Julian Draxler. So he's currently playing at PSG, but did play for Schalke for quite a few seasons. When they weren't in the Champions League, he then decided to move to Wolfsburg just a few weeks after being rejected out of a move from Juventus. I say rejected because the club rejected the fee that Juventus were offering, despite the player having agreed personal terms. So he did go to Wolfsburg, which you may think they're a pretty similar sized club. In fact, Schalke are probably a little bit bigger. But at the time, they had Champions League football. He plied his trade, did pretty well in that 1 year with them, and then ended up moving to PSG. For me, his ability and his ego and his attitude just aren't at that kind of level where he gets noticed. It's an unfortunate thing because he doesn't really let himself stand out, and he's often quite easily replaced in the PSG lineup. If he wants to go on and fulfill that early career promise, he probably could do no worse than moving back to Schalke. Anyway, in this team, he sits on the right-hand side. So into the number 10 role, and in with a good shout was Kerem Demirbay, who this summer made the move to Bayer Leverkusen, but of course, the number 10 role had to go to Mesut Ozil. If there was anything that would tell you about a player later in his career, it's Mesut Ozil's spell at Schalke. They probably should have warned the rest of the world, although they did kind of want the money, that he was no good news, despite the fact he was ridiculously talented. Around 10 years ago, he wanted to sign a new contract with Schalke, but wanted a ridiculous amount of money. They thought he had the talent, but didn't really think he was worth that much, so he decided to go to Werder Bremen instead. Of course, his talents then took him on to Real Madrid. They took him to the World Cup final, where he won with Germany in 2014, but after a few good years at Arsenal, it seems like his career's come full circle. He's whining, he's complaining about money, he finally got the money at Arsenal on a ridiculous wage per week, and now he's not really showing the talent that we all know he has. Yes, he's had a few run-ins with Unai Emery, but still, it looks like whenever he does get on the pitch for the Gunners, he's just not providing the worth. Despite that though, if miraculously this team somehow got together, I've no doubt that he could be the one luxury player that the team could carry behind a solo striker, who at 36 years of age, you're going to say, Matt, it's utterly ridiculous that he's still in the side. But fear not, Klaas-Jan Huntelaar gets goals. He may be 36. He's still banging them in for Ajax in the Eredivisie like he's done his whole career, and spent an unbelievable 7 years at Schalke, becoming a really, really good striker in the Bundesliga. Now at this age, yeah, you might as well bring back Raul as well. But it was either that or Brian Bolo. Now he's moved on to Gladbach. Schalke did well to get 10 million for him, but he had a pretty shocking few years at the club. Injury hit and not really performing means that they moved him on, so I'm bringing back Huntelaar, the 36-year-old Huntelaar, into this starting lineup. So there you have it. Let me know your thoughts on this Schalke who's in. If they didn't sell all of their stars, who would you have had in? Who would you have been replaced? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Whilst you're there, you can click here or here to check out some of the other ones that we've done in this series. But until next time, I will see you guys later.